This is the opening panel. On the bottom in blue here you have the different screens that you can go to. We'll go to the timer screen. Gently touch the button to change screens. We'll go to the tool setup screen. Go back to the timer screen. Go to setup screen, back to the timer screen. Go to the counter screen, back to the timer screen. In the timer screen you have your pre-seal, low power, high power, and cool times. You also have for heat seal only a timer. These timers up on top run in sequential order, starting with the pre-seal timer. When it finishes, the bar above it will turn green. The line above that tells you what tool number you have last asked to be restored into the system. There's a line for any faults that the system might have. We'll give you a fault warning, the date, and the time. It also gives you a rate counter that tells you how many cycles per minute you're able to achieve. It'll change based on each cycle. In the counter screen, it'll keep track of how many cycles you had, how many hours are on the oscillator meter, how many times the arc suppressor fired, and how many overloads you've had. To reset, you just touch the counter, and then you'll get a screen that asks you, are you sure you want to reset the arc counter? Say yes to reset it or no to return to the last screen. Overload counter works the same way. Touch the counter, say yes to reset, return to last screen. Going back to the timer screen allows us access to the tooling setup screen. In the tooling setup screen you still have the same timers that you see in the timer screen, and you have 3 additional buttons. One to enter a tool number. You can pick a tool 1 through 10. Once you enter the tool number, you can save the current settings. It'll ask you, are you sure you want to record over the current settings? Say yes to save the settings. Then anytime you want to come back to it, you enter the tool number. Then you say restore tool settings. That'll change the timers automatically. On the setup screen, it'll allow you to run an arc suppressor test or a control test. Control test means the machine will cycle without RF on. The arc suppressor test allows you to test the arc suppressor for die protection while you're running RF. If you press it, you'll hear a buzzer sound, and you'll see the grid meter make a quick jump and return. Very small jump, but a quick one. One more time. If you press the control test button, you'll see it'll flash. This is to let you know that this is not normal operating conditions. If you press this button and you leave it like this, when you run an RF cycle, only the timers will run, but you will not have RF. Similar to the heat seal cycle. Back to the timer screen, and you have one more button, the fault screen. In this, since we tested the arc suppressor, we have an arc suppressor fired fault. The machine will not allow you to run an RF cycle until you have acknowledged and reset the fault by pressing this red box down here, reset fault. Once all the faults are cleared, you can go back to normal operations.
Show how to set the actual time.
You want to change a timer, you press the timer box, and you can see you can set it from 0 to 39.99 seconds. We'll set it for 5. And if you look up in this box, you'll see the 5, 0, 0, and then the return button. Now that timer is updated to 5. The time below it is the actual counting time. While the cycle's running, these timers will count up until they meet the time that you've entered in. This is the plate and the grid meter. The plate meter indicates how much power you're bringing out to your die. The grid meter indicates how much power is still left inside the machine. You have a row of buttons and switches down here. This is a cycle stop button. There are 3 cycle stop buttons on the machine. This is a line indicator button. Lets you know that the machine is, the doors are closed on the machine, and we call that line. And if that's not lit up, the machine's not going to operate. Whenever RF is on, the RF light, red light, will illuminate, and there's an RF on-off switch that is handy when you're setting up a die for the first time. After that, you'll just leave it in the RF on position.